Welcome to this video series where we shall be looking at PHP and MySQL. Our aim here is to be able to create the records, that is, create the form, submit the records into the database, retrieve, update, delete, the process normally referred to as CRUD. So we shall build a simple school records management system, and our task 1 will be to create a form. Then afterwards we shall create a database, and we connect to the database that we shall create. Then we shall create the table to be able to submit this data that we shall be capturing through this form. This is the form that we shall design right here. Then after capturing the records, we shall be able to retrieve, we update and delete the records. So let's get started with our task 1, which is creating the form. So you will launch Sublime, then you'll create a file, that is a PHP file, save as, then you go to our main folder that you created. Remember, we had CSS files for styling the simple interface that we developed in the previous lecture, named Introduction to HTML and CSS. So we are going to create another folder, another file, PHP file, and shall call it students.php. Then we save. Then we shall have the HTML syntax, opening this, and we can give it a title. You can say student registration. So previously we used div tags to divide the different sections on our web page. This time we shall use the table to be able to separate the form elements, such that you can also learn how to use the table to do the same, just like the way we did with the divs. So we shall do this systematically, such that you are able to come up with the form that you're seeing right here. These different elements that you're seeing, the labels, they are contained in one column of our table. These full columns are also in another column. Then these other elements, the text box, drop down, checkbox, date, they are also contained in the separate column. Then we shall have a field set surrounding our form elements, as you can see here. So let us get started. So we shall start by creating our form right here. So all the form elements must be contained inside the form. Then the method of posting the records from this particular form to our database that we shall create later is post. Then we shall have the field set, which will also act as a container for our form elements. So you type the field set, and the label on our field set will be enter the records, just like the way you see it here. Enter the data here. So we are just trying to reproduce this particular form that you're seeing here. So you'll type enter the data here. So this is our container, which is inside our main element, which is the form, and inside the form we have the container, which is the field set, and inside the field set, that's where we shall have our table. So the table will help us in aligning these different records that you're seeing right here. So the different elements that you're seeing right here, the table will help us to align them. Okay, remember the concept of the table. It is made up of rows and columns, so therefore we shall need to follow the same procedure right here. How do we define the rows? How do we define the columns? So let's get started with the table as we arrange our content. So we shall put the table element right here. Remember, the table is inside the field set. Then we shall have a row, our first row. So you say tr means the table row. So inside the row we have columns inside the given row to form what we call cells. So how do we do this? You'll say table data. So this is our first cell. So we have a table which has the opening tag and the closing tag. Then we have the first row, which we have defined as tr, that is table row, and close it here. Then we have our first cell, which will contain our first item on our form, which is the reg number, as you can see right here. So we shall type inside this cell reg number. Okay, then in the next cell we shall have the full column, that is td, meaning table data. So you put the full column there. So as you can see right here, we have the full column here. So that's exactly what we have done here. So this is the cell that we have here. Then the next cell will have the form element, which is our text box. So you say table data. Inside the cell we shall have our form element, which is input, and type is text. The name is reg number. Meaning registration number. Then the placeholder is enter reg number. So when you look at the design of our form here, we have this enter reg number. So this is a placeholder which we have just placed right here. Okay, so that is our first row, which has the reg number. As you can see in the design here, it has the reg number as a label, full colon, then text box. So the next one has names. So what we shall do, we shall copy this particular row and only change the labeling. So you'll highlight this, copy, press the enter key, then you paste. So where you have the reg number, you just say names. Then we shall maintain the full column. The input type is still text, only that the name will change to student's name. So we can call it stud name, meaning student's name. Then the placeholder we'll also change enter names. So far we have the first row and the second row. So we can even check this on the browser. So localhost, the folder is, that is your name, then the name of the file that you have created is students.php. So localhost / the name of your folder, which is this, then / the name of the file, which is students.php. Okay. So as you can see, it is taking shape at the moment. We have just not center lined it, but as you can see, so far we have the reg number here, we have the names, the field. So let's continue and complete the remaining parts of the form. So we create another row where we shall be able to include the programs right here. So you'll say table row and press the enter key. Then we shall have table data, meaning our first cell, and inside that particular cell we shall say program, just like the way you're seeing right here. So we shall have program. Then the next cell, which is table data, TD, we shall have the full colon, separating our drop down from the label. Okay. Then the next cell, which is TD, meaning table data, that's where we shall have our drop down list of programs. So how do we get the drop down? You type select. This is the element that allows you to list items. So you say select, and we shall give it a name as program. So inside the select tag, we shall have the different options or the different programs that we have. So the first option, we shall have a program, poem. Then we can copy this and paste. Then we have another program, BBC. Then you can also copy this and paste. Then you can have another program, BBA. So those three are enough for the demonstration. So you can save the changes, you can save all. So when we refresh, we should be able to see our drop down right here. Okay. So let's proceed with the remaining elements for our form. As you can see right here, we have gender. So we create another row. Okay. So at the end of this particular row where we created the drop down list, you create another row by typing tr, meaning table row. Then inside that particular row, we create the cells which will contain our values. So our first cell, which is table data, will contain gender as a label. Then the next one, we shall have the full colon, which is still table data. That is the next cell. Put the full colon. Then the last cell will contain our different values. Okay. So we shall have another one, TD. So inside this last cell, That's where we shall have our different categories of gender, that is male or female. So you can say male. This time the input type is the radio button, so you can say input, the type is radio button, but you simply type there radio. Okay, remember we have checkboxes and we have radio buttons. You can choose to use a checkbox or use the radio button. For our case, we shall use the radio button. So we shall give it a name as gender. Then the value that will be posted to the database when we submit the records will be corresponding to what we have here, which is male. So if somebody selects that particular radio button and they post the record to our database, what will be posted will be male. So we can copy this for female, then we'll name this to female. So it will still remain radio, and also we shall have gender as the name. Then we shall change the value to be posted from male to female. So when we check the appearance of this as well by refreshing, you can see we have this. So you can either choose male or female, then you'll be able to submit. So let's move to the next element. So we create another row right here. So looking at our form design right here, we have date of birth right there. So we shall create another row, so table row. So inside that table row we have some data, meaning a cell which contains date of birth, then we shall also have the full column, just like we did with the previous. So these are cells. TD is table data, TR is table row. So we shall have another one. The input type here, so we shall have the input. This time it is date. Okay, we want the calendar to show up, and the name will be calendar. So when we check on this, we shall have our calendar right here, so that we're able to select the date automatically from there. So let's move to the last form item, which is our submit button. So we shall create it in another row. And the table data. So here we shall only have one cell since we simply need a button. So the input type will be submit. Then the name, we shall also say submit. Then the value or what you want to appear on the button will be register. So when you refresh and we have a look at this, so you find now we have our button right here. So maybe what you can do is to center line our form. You can align our form the center. So you can go to the opening tag of our form right here, then you type their center, then we go to the closing tag of the form right here, then we close that. So if we go and refresh, we shall have our form at the center. So thanks for watching. We are now going to work on this in the next video, that is creating the database.